before going to see Yolanda, I had been in therapy before with a couple of different therapists over at several points in my life. And it is very different. There's a big difference. When I went to go see other therapists, I was much more about crisis and what's happening in the moment. I never really pushed it beyond about transformation. I'm much more, well, number one, much more at peace with things. I'm much more able to handle things where if, let's say if a crisis does happen, then I'm able to say, okay, well, this is a crisis that's happening. This is not my whole life. This is something that I can resolve it and move past it and continue to live peacefully. I would not have reached that place without Yolanda, the work that we've done together. I wouldn't have. I would have continually and perpetually been creating crises because that's what I was comfortable in. And then I see that now.
Working with Yolanda, I've been working with Yolanda, I believe, 14 years now. And what stands out to me working with her, and I've worked with other therapists, not many, but I've worked with others, is I feel extremely safe. It's very confidential, and she holds me. She holds me spiritually, she holds me emotionally, and she remembers every part of my path and journey.
In working with Yolanda, what I really found most beneficial for me was the internal growth and learning to forgive myself. Learning to realize that things were not necessarily my fault at a younger age. Voice dialogue techniques were first initially a little uncomfortable, but working through the process and persevering, I think it's really helped me grow as a person. The other thing I think that really helped a lot is as a child, I was adopted, and with that came a lot of hurt and pain. And I used to have a lot of dreams. In that, I learned that when you're having what's called, quote, a nightmare, it's not necessarily a nightmare, that it's a dream. And I used to wake up in such sweats, but now I learned to journal. And I learned to interpret the dreams as not being nightmares, but just an awareness that something is going on.
So when I first started working with Yolanda, I was in a really dark place. I was in definitely a low point in my life, and I was dealing with a few issues, but I think one of my biggest issues was my inner critic, and kind of even just growing an awareness of my inner critic and kind of figuring out that that was a huge problem in my life was a big awakening. I was kind of my own worst enemy for a while, and by working with Yolanda, as I said, I became aware of it and then started to learn how to cope with my inner critic, and then even start to see the benefits of having my inner critic. And that opened so many doors for me, just in terms of my own feelings of self-worth. Through working with Yolanda, I felt like I've become much more independent and much better able to deal with any kind of stresses or traumas that life will throw at you. And so I'm very grateful for that.